way, way back. It might be, it could be, it is. Holy cow! Welcome to another broadcast of Bricks Behind the Ivy.
Hey, Cub fans, welcome to another episode of Bricks Behind the Ivy. Thank you so much to our awesome sponsors, Wrigleyville Sports, the best sports store in Wrigleyville, and Yaggy Road Roasting Company, based in Valparaiso, Indiana, serving cups of coffee just as special as the moments you drink them in. Here's your host, Jeff Candid Cubs Rogowskis and Pat Erickson. Hey, Brickheads, welcome to another episode of Bricks Behind the Ivy, where the Cubs talk never goes out of season. I am your host, Jeff Candid Cubs Rogowskis of Bricks Behind the Ivy, and occasionally Cubs Insider. And with me, as always, is co-hostess, the mostest, Mr. Pat Erickson, and we are bringing you stories from the North Sides, the stats that matter, and that friendly confines energy wherever you're listening today. Pat, how are you doing?
Doing good, buddy. Doing good. Heck of a weekend. Boys looked sharp up in out in LA in La La Land. It was good to see the bats coming. It was good to see them shut down Ohtani last night. I got a little bit of the bad news with Justin Steele, so we'll see what ends up panning from that. But other than that, just got back from a nice long weekend out at the University of Georgia with my son and caught some college baseball on there, so that was pretty fun, and some football. But I'm ready to get it going. Let's talk about the caught some college pretty fun. Get it going. Let's talk about the boys and what we got coming up and how we're doing so far.
Yeah, it was a nice weekend over here as well. You know, I didn't participate in, for those who know, the massive chicken jockey trend for seeing the Minecraft movie, if you know what that is. But my son is a big Minecraft guy, and when that movie came out, obviously we had to see it right away, and it's been out since we last talked. And yeah, the theater was pretty ruckus. We were there on opening day, and people like got up and cheered, but nobody threw stuff or had live chickens like I've seen on the internet. But yes. I guess like I can mark myself safe from a Minecraft movie screening, which is not what everybody has been able to do. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way. This episode is brought to you by Wrigleyville Sports. They're located right across the street from Wrigley Field. Whether you're grabbing gear before first pitch or ordering from home, they've got you covered, including fast custom jerseys ready for game day. Make sure you're hitting that link in our description to shop Wrigleyville Sports. But there is maybe a discount code coming soon. That's a nice little teaser. And shout out to our friends over at Yaggy Road Roasting Company, a boutique coffee roaster based in Valparaiso, Indiana. That's my alma mater. Go Beacons. Yaggy's owned by 3 fellow Valpo alums, and they roast coffee as special as the moments you drink them in. So make sure you are also using that link in the description to order your coffee today. But before we get rolling with our usual show material, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, leaving a review if you are listening on your favorite podcast app. It makes us help find more Brickheads to join us. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is actually known as the Bleacher Bunch Network. Just passed 800 subscribers this weekend. What? The Bleacher Bunch Network is the home of the Cubs PS Plus podcast with Mike Waller, Sun Ranto Show with the great Danny Rocket, Cup of Cubby Blue with Sarah Sanchez, the Bleacher Bunch Show, which features a wide variety of us from time to time on Thursdays, and Baseball Rabbit Hole with Michael Cotton. And if you subscribe to Patreon, you can become part of the Bleacher Bunch community and get the daily Cubs game recap show called Cubs Pod. If you want more of this content, including shirts and exclusive access, join the Patreon exclusive community. There's a link in the description. You can find that at patreon.com/Bleacher Bunch. Well, it would not be an episode of Bricks Behind the Ivy if we didn't bring you the Box Score Blitz, which is brought to you by Yaggy Road Roasting Company. As if you want to get off to a fast start to your week, you get some good coffee. If you want to get a fast start to your Cubs week and catch up on Cubs Score, you're going to want to watch Box Score Blitz. So 3, a 2, a 1, go. Welcome to another episode of Box Score Blitz with Bricks Behind the Ivy, brought to you by Yaggy Road Roasting Company. Cubs open this week with 3 games versus the Texas Rangers as they come to Wrigley Field. They win game 1 7-0 with a really great performance by Justin Steele. 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 walks, 8 Ks, 10 whiffs. More on Steele later. Game 2, Cubs win 10-6 with Jameson Taillon, 6 innings pitched, 12 whiffs in this game after a career high 18 whiffs last week. Game 3, Shota gets touched up a little bit, even with 15 whiffs. It looked a lot better than the results. Cubs lose this one 6-2. Off to La La Land, find true love with Ryan Gosling. Not. 3-game set versus the Dodgers with Yamamoto, Sasaki, and Glasnow lined up for the Cubs. Yikes. But Cubs take 2 out of 3, winning a laugher on Saturday, 16-0, and a real nail-biter on Sunday Night Baseball with a good performance from the bullpen as the Cubs win 4-2 after having to have Colin Ray do an emergency start. Let's keep Dodger Stadium or Dodger Michael Busch, 333, 4 home runs, 12 RBIs versus the Dodgers. How dare you trade me? We'll see you next week. Go Cubs! All right, so yes. Really nice week for the Cubbies. Another 4-2 week, and we'll get those standings up there. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see.
She's a feud, isn't she?
Yeah, look at that. Look at that team right there, up right up on top there. There's the Chicago Cubs sitting at 11-7. Cincinnati Reds looking pretty good of late. They actually have some really impressive advanced pitching numbers if you want to check out over at Baseball Savant, where I check out a lot of advanced pitching stuff, but they have really limited hitters, which is really impressive given their ballpark usually being a tin can of offense. But they're 8-8. The Brewers are also 8-8 as well. St. Louis Cardinals, they're 7-8. And
St. Louis is boring.
It is. We're not even going to mention them. It's just there's nothing to talk about. And then the Pittsburgh Pirates have 5 wins probably on days that Paul Skeens has pitched and 11 losses for literally every other game. And that is the standings update. So that's been an interesting start to the year for the Cubs, 11-7. The Dodgers are sitting at 11-6. So, I mean, yeah, slightly behind the Dodgers, but I think that if you looked at the beginning of this year, you probably would have taken being around the same record as this Dodger team had like 18 games in the season. Pat, what do you think about that?
Wow. I mean, let me just start off by just saying, wow, I am very impressed. I mean, the way that we looked, now you could have equated it to jet lag and getting used to Tokyo and everything else, but the way that we started off this year, if you were to tell me that we'd be 11-7 the Monday before Easter, I would think you were crazy. And we have looked just completely dominant. And the one thing that I do want to bring about with all of this is, yeah, it's been, a couple of, really good really good performances by Tucker and everything else. But if you look at it in the grand scheme, this has been a team that's top to bottom. Okay. Everybody's contributing. Everybody's doing their part. Everybody's, when you need to get in, get on, get around, get in, small ball, long ball, everything else has been going unbelievable. And I'm pretty impressed. I think it was last week or a couple weeks ago when I said that I'd be impressed if we were 500 in the month of April. Well, we're better on track than that. So let's keep this train moving.
Yeah, I think it really is. That's a lot of podcasts. I'll credit the other folks out there. You shouldn't be listening to them. You should be listening. No, you can listen to everyone. Listen to anyone you want. But a lot of podcasts, a lot of Cubs pundits have been talking about this really challenging stretch to start the year, and it's not getting any easier. As we'll preview the series towards the end of the episode with the Padres and the Diamondbacks looming again, as we just continue to hit the NL West as hard as we can early in the year, right? But it's been a really nice stretch, and they're a fun team to watch, which has been something that's been missing, for a number of seasons. And, we had the not a rebuild, which, I had to Frank the Tank Schwindel and Patrick Wisdongs, which he's, doing a lot of that in Korea still. He had a nice little heater. If you're not checking out, Patrick Wisdom in Korea, you should. There's the KBO out there, and he had, I think it was 4 straight games with the donger. So Wisdongs apparently translate to Korean, so that's pretty cool. But that's all we had. And the last 2 years, the 83 just barely above 500. All this talk about the finances, like let's bury it. Like let's follow this team. It's been so fun. They're defensively extremely sound. They had no errors in that tight ball game last night. And, you know, there's still some gripes. Like, let's not, like, we're not going to say this is the best team ever assembled, but there's some gripes and some challenges ahead, which we'll get into. But yeah, this is a really pleasant start. And, you know, I think there's been times like last year with, you know, some crippling or crushing losses where this team, I felt like, you know, the wheels would come off, and players have obviously come off their roster and they just continue not to miss a beat.
No, they don't. And it's funny you're saying that it's a fun team to watch. I've heard that from friends of mine. I've heard it on social media, or seen it on social media, heard it on the Score, heard it on any type of media outlets. And it's the funny thing is they're fun on and off the field. Jeff, I challenge you, and I don't know if you saw this today, but the Chicago Cubs, I saw this on Facebook. They released a video. It is the funniest thing I've ever seen. It's Shota in the shower singing "Go Cubs Go." I about lost it when I saw that thing. I had to text it to my son in Georgia right away, and he's like, "What is that?" But that just shows you the kind of atmosphere that's going on over there. And I mean, when you're fun like this, you play loose. When you play loose, you do less mistakes. When you do less mistakes, it translates into what we just saw when you put the standings on up there. So this has been a blast so far. And I mean, heck, it's only mid-April. Let's go.
Yeah, I think, you know, like Shota obviously has become like we talked about it at the end of last season, and, you know, he had a stinker this week, but you know, the numbers weren't as bad as like the results were bad. Like there was nothing concerning in the information, but Shota Imanaga has turned into win day. He was 15-5 last year. He really goes out there and competes. Like he's a really good pitcher. He's not a good player. He's a good pitcher. He's out there and he's playing chess while other guys are playing hungry launch angle hippos. Like it's a very different way that he goes about the game. It's fun to watch. It is. I'm not saying he's Kyle Hendricks, but he's become a must-watch pitcher for me, like Kyle Hendricks had for years, just because of, you know, how he goes about his craft, and it's really nice to see. And yeah, the PCA, who's just, you know, like lightning in a bottle, regardless of, you know, how he produces. It's been just nice to see. I noticed, you know, I think it's fun, and, you know, maybe we'll come up with a segment of the most negative tweet or social media comment from fan of the week.
But on like Jimmy Kimmel or whatever. Yeah, mean tweets.
Yeah, I think we should do the mean tweet of the week. I saw one this week, and we'll think of a way. But it was I had said something about PCA needed to stop swinging so much, and someone replied to me and said, "He's trash. He belongs in Iowa." And I had no energy to argue with this person, but I could not believe how just inappropriate and like out of touch that comment was. God. So yeah, maybe coming soon to Pricks Behind the Ivy, the Cub fan.
You're lucky I didn't see it, because my response to that would be, "Hey, Stevie Wonder, are you watching the same game that I'm watching right now?"
Yeah. I mean, so have someone sit you back in front of the piano and write some blues hits. But get out of here with that.
But here's the deal, and it's always been that way in Cub Nation. We could go, you know, we can, you know, go the rest of the month, let's say, with only 7 losses, and someone will find a negative in it. You know what? Like I said before, and I'll say it again to the day I die, have fun with this team. It's a blast. But yeah, I do like the mean tweet idea. That might be kind of fun.
Yeah, I think it's just to poke fun at, you know, the sky is falling, and you know, I'm guilty of it at times, but you know, it's tough. If you see something that's particularly mean, send it to us or tag us in it, and maybe it'll be featured on the show. Leave mean comments and we'll share them. But make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel in order to leave us mean comments. But yeah, let's not bury the lead. Let's get into first. We're going to do our batter and pitcher of the week, brought to you by Wrigleyville Sports. And then we'll talk about, you know, some of the things that are rearing its head. And I think we'll talk about extensions on one side, and then we'll talk about injuries and how those interplay. But I believe you have this week's hitter of the week. Who you got as your top?
Well. I was tasked with the old hitter of the week. And I looked at it up and down, and I mean, could we technically give it every week to Mike or to King Tuck? I mean, we could, but where's the fun in that? So I'm kind of looking around at what we've been doing, and guys have been heating up. PCA, I mean, he had a big night with 2 home runs and a double
in front of his parents, which like I'm such a sucker for that. Like mom and dad at the ball yard, and you get 11 total bases. Like, good for you, kid. Like, that's awesome.
That's awesome. Blowing kisses to his mom, and he actually has family that live out in this way too, and out by me. But yeah, it was a great game to watch. So I took a look at the roster up and down and seeing how we're doing. But to fire up, who's hot? Let's get her going. Let's get her going, kids. I would like to give this time to former Dodger. Hey, thanks for getting rid of me. I'm happier now, Michael Busch. And it's primarily for what he just did over the weekend. I mean, this was unbelievable. I'm just kind of taking a look at some stuff right now. He was 6 of 13 with 2 home runs, 4 RBIs. I mean, he was unbelievably unstoppable against this Dodger team. And I joked, I was driving home from Georgia last night, and I was joking with my son, and I texted him, like, well, maybe he stole the way out the door. I don't know. But yeah, I'm impressed with his approach at the plate. He's being very patient. He's not chasing. But that's who I would go with for this one. I would definitely go with Michael Busch. So that's my hitter of the week. Now, Jeff, you were tasked with the pitcher of the week, and we know, unfortunately, it's not Justin Steele.
Well, the irony was it was going to be Justin Steele, but I didn't feel like it was really appropriate. He had a really nice start, Justin Steele, this week.
Yeah, he did. It was awesome.
Really good to see. Yeah, he had 8 strikeouts. He was getting a lot of swing and miss. Like, he looked like he was himself, and obviously we got that news shortly after. He felt something in that start. Something that bothered him last year. And as soon as we got that tweet of the from, I think it was Patrick Mooney, saying that they wanted to get a second opinion, I was like, and Tommy John, like, that's so all right. Like, it hasn't been, I don't believe up to this point, we're sitting here on Monday, it's been called Tommy John. It's been called an elbow cleanup procedure. But
that's what I've heard,
that like, it's in that territory. He's had Tommy John before. And, one of the Cubs folks that I've gotten to, meet during this Bricks Behind the Ivy process, Greg Zumak had put something out there about, he wouldn't bet against Justin Steele. He had Tommy John once before and came back throwing in 9 months, like, just really accelerated his timeline, came back a machine and became what he is. So he said, there's not a guy he would bet against. Like, he would not bet against like Justin Steele coming back and being exactly what he was. So thoughts and prayers to Justin Steele as he, recovers from Tommy John.
There we go.
But a big one for me this week, in lieu of Justin Steele's big performance, I'm naming our Wrigleyville Sports Pitcher of the Week as Benjamin Brown. He looked really, really good in that Dodgers game on Saturday. And you're not going to see Lance Bresdowski, quoting the source here. I'm always happy to share the sources. So you're not going to see many young pitchers or any pitchers at all come 3 straight fastballs at Shohei Ohtani and, like, have no fear. That is
like, okay, kid, I'm giving it to you. Hit it.
That's the definition of cojones, because that guy is an otherworldly hitter. Not this weekend versus the Cubs, but he is an otherworldly hitter. Just an extremely accomplished baseball player. Watching him take at bats, honestly, like, it's fun to say that he didn't have a great weekend versus the Cubs. The dude hit some rockets versus us right at people. So, like, it wasn't like he had this really ugly tons of strikeout series like versus the Cubs. It was more of a hit him at some point he's going to get his licks. He's a great baseball player. But yeah, Ben Brown attacked him. He had 5 Ks, fastball great, the death ball, his spike curve ball looked great. And the Cubs are really going to need performances like his and guys like Matthew Boyd and Jameson Taillon to, continue to step up while we, look to see what the next version of this rotation and who's gonna really kind of, emerge as a leader for this group while we, maybe try to solve this pitching situation externally or internally or however they want to go about it. But I do want to, before we move on to our next topic, just a little bit. My own dad who listens, hi Dad, if you're listening, told me that he thinks sometimes I get a little too technical because I'm a big baseball nerd. So I'm going to try to be a little more, explain what I'm trying to say a little bit more, thinking that I don't want folks to think that I'm inaccessible when I'm saying, and like the obligatory nerd alert. But
but see, we balance it out. You're the brains, and I sure as heck can now. So it's not even.
You're the yin to my yang. Like,
there it is, buddy. Absolutely.
Yes. But I was looking at, I've been worried this offseason. I was worried about Cubs swing and miss. I've been thinking about this rotation needs more swing and miss. It's been a discussion I think that we've had on the show. We've had privately. The Cubs, it was interesting. I was looking at whiff percentage, which is how often a guy swings and misses at someone's pitch, which so whiff to me is a true component of being able to evaluate how good a pitcher is. Because if you're swinging and hitting something softly, then you're managing contact. And if someone's swinging at you a lot and they're not able to touch the ball, that's stuff to me. Yeah, if you're getting a lot of swings and when they are swinging, they're missing, that's huge. So higher the whiff percentage, the better the pitcher is. The highest whiff percentage this year is Logan Gilbert over in Seattle. Great pitcher, probably a perennial Cy Young candidate. And the other one on the top of that list is Cole Reagans, who is a Tread graduate from our old boy Tyler Zombro, who has been on this show and is part of the Cubs front office. But in the top 30, the Cubs top 33. Yeah, we're going to be that specific. The Cubs have 3 pitchers in the top 33 for whiff in the majors this year. And it's Jameson Taillon is leading the pack like that. I don't think if you told me at this offseason that he has done something with that changeup that has produced so many more whiffs. And that makes the fastball play better. And he's always had a good curveball. That's always been what Jameson Taillon has been about. And Ben Brown's right there too at 29%, and right behind him at 29%, Shohei Minaga. So the Cubs have 3 players right now that are getting whiff at 29% clip, and none of them are Justin Steele. So that's awesome. That is such good news. So
especially now with the dilemma that we got going on right now, that's really, really positive to hear.
Which is a perfect transition. Do you want to give the audience, not bury the lead? I'm sure anyone listening to this knows what happens, but why don't you tell them what's going on?
Oh gosh. Well, let's cue up it. Let's do the MASH theme. We got a man down. Justin Steele, as you probably all have heard, read, saw. He is now down for the year. They are not coming out right away and saying that it is Tommy John, but it's elbow tendonitis. It was the same issues that he dealt with on and off last year. And to be honest with you, it's going to be a blow. But hearing, for example, the stat that it's good to see and good to hear that we've got guys that are stepping up. And talk about stepping up. I mean, over the weekend, when we found out the news that Steele went down, you had, like you just talked about, that great outing from Ben Brown. The next day, we had Cole Ray start, and then it was basically a bullpen start. And we had great performances, from Merriweather and Ethan Ross getting the win, for last night's game. So they have not officially announced that it is Tommy John. I do think, though, however, and I don't know if it's, a new version of what they're doing. If you heard Tommy John, when I was growing up as a kid, you're like, okay, this guy's career is done. But as Jeff and I've talked about before, they go in there, and I don't know if they turn him into, Henry Rowan Gardner, and the next thing after the surgery, he's snapping him from the bleachers. But the procedures have actually made pitchers better. And I think that with Justin's workout ethic, being smart, going in there, cleaning it up before any further, more intense damage can possibly be done, I think this is going to be good. It's going to be a tough pill to swallow. And I hope, Mr. Ricketts, Tommy, I hope you're watching. Time to open up the checkbook. We're going to need to see what arms are available. It's not going to be now. It's going to closer to the train, but you figure things out. I think the guys will step up in the interim. What's your feelings on it?
Yeah, I think, I do want to touch on the other injury until we see him back in the lineup. It's a concern for me. Seiya Suzuki, who is a huge part of this lineup and really just kind of pushes back up that zit that won't go away of the Cubs need a front end rotation arm and need another bat to really stabilize this offense. And I think, the offense has performed amazingly. And I think a lot of that is the Kyle Tucker effect, which is something I think we've all hoped, you get that, as they call on MLB Network, the aircraft carrier in the middle of that lineup. That tide raises all the boats, and we're seeing all the boats rise. And torpedo bat, non-torpedo bat, phasers on fun, whatever the hell they're doing, it is fantastic to watch. They're offensively, this reminds me in a lot of ways, and I do want to look at the stats for this, of the 2016 team where they were monsters in the box. They're taking walks. They do strike out, but they're finding pitches and executing. The Cubs aren't near the top of the league in like a barrel rate or anything like that. They're not necessarily leading the world in hard contact, but that's because we've got like this hodgepodge of like Kyle Tucker, like finds a pitch and can slap it the other way if he needs to. Nico Horner has turned into a right field machine. That guy doesn't swing and miss. He doesn't. It's just like he's like 4%. That's the swing rate. This is a whiff rate focus today. 4%. That is the whiff rate of Luis Arias, the guy who never strikes out. And Nico Horner's at 8%.
You need an example of what you just said. Look at Nico Horner's at bat late last night when he poked that ball to score that insurance run. That solidifies exactly what you just said.
Nico Horner, 4th in baseball, with guys like Steven Kwan, who's a high average guy, and Luis Arias. Like, maybe we have finally figured out we don't need to like add the launch angle to Nico. We need him to continue to do that bat to ball skill, and the number is going to come. And he's walking more because he's taking this approach and not giving in. Like, this is a Nico Horner that I'm excited about. Like, he doesn't need to be the Ben Zobrist we heard. Like, he doesn't need to hit 20 bombs. Like, but if he's going to get on base at a 330 clip and be a great situational hitter, then hell yeah. Like, give me that every damn day. Like, he's been super impressive. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, the Cubs do need to get healthy. I'm hoping that the wrist issue is minor for Seiya, because they said he's been dealing with it a while, and it's like he's been really hot at the plate. So like, I haven't noticed like the sapped power or anything. Maybe it just was bothering him, and like it really is a precautionary thing. Which I'd rather with Seiya like be very cautious. Like, it reminds me of. Do you remember? I know he was a Twin for a long time. Do you remember Rondell White? Good
old number 15. Absolutely.
Yeah. His knees were made of glass. Like, he was a great player when he was healthy, but he was never healthy. Like, that was, and he was.
His nickname was Crystal. Oh yeah.
Yeah. The first page of the Tribune that offseason when they signed him, it's like, great, we got this guy. No, like it's like the Cardell Stewart, or if I'm getting that name right, Cordell Stewart for the for the Bears. It's like we get these guys past their prime, and like the newspapers sell us like, hey, go buy these tickets. You got these great players, but we're like Rondell White, like, couldn't get on the field with a wheelchair and a glass knee. Like, he was not a healthy player. And Seiya Suzuki is getting there in my head of this guy that just can't stay healthy. So let's talk about players that are staying healthy and talk about some of the extension news that is leaking out there. I know you got some additional information you heard from listening to the score. Jacob Sanella over at Cubs Insider has also confirmed that the Cubs have been talking to Kyle Tucker. I know there was some hesitancy this weekend given some of the sources, Mike Deportes and Mr. Gomez, who have not been necessarily reliable in the past, but were the first to sniff out the Vlad Guerrero Jr. deal. What did you hear in the latest on what the cost of Kyle Tucker is going to be?
So I was listening to the score today in the afternoon show. Heard a couple of interesting things about a couple of extension talks that are going on. First and foremost was about Kyle Tucker. And I guess it was brought up last night on Baseball Tonight, and Jeff Passan, they asked him, okay, who do you foresee that is going to land Tucker a deal that goes years, and everything else, because obviously the questions, and you've seen it, on pre and post that already getting asked, hey, how do you feel about the Guerrero deal and how is this going to affect you, et cetera. But what Jeff Passan was talking about last night, he actually said that he believes in his heart of hearts that the Cubs are going to land him. One of the big is he believes that Tom Ricketts does not want to have his legacy going down, and he's already Peter in there with his break-even comments. Ricketts is going to go down for being a cheap owner. Okay, so he believes that the Cubs are going to step up, that they are going to get him, and what figures that have been floating around, the four-letter network and everything else is that 10 years, 475 million is the common that they have heard as far as Tucker. Now, I'd take that in a New York minute. The second one that they were talking about too is now we're going to need to start looking into the extension for PCA, locking him up. And it was funny that they were even talking about how they got, in 2020, Rizzo was like 7 years, 44 million. Now, obviously that's 10 years ago. That doesn't translate to now, but they believe for PCA, what they've been hearing is 7 to 8 years and anywhere from 40 to 50 million. So those are the two things that I heard. And it did a little bit of research online as well. Jeff, what's your thoughts on both of those?
Yeah, I think, I was going to ask you the question, and like, I feel like the answer is very simple. Like, if you could pick PCA or Kyle Tucker extended, which one would you pick? And to me, my answer is Kyle Tucker. And it's not a slight against PCA. It's just the importance of what Kyle Tucker is his offense and the immediacy of needing to address the Kyle Tucker situation as well. Right. Like we still have cost controlled years of PCA, and he seems to want to bet on himself a little bit, which, more power to him for doing that. He has every right to do that. But the Kyle Tucker thing, you're like, there is a ticking time bomb here of him, making it to the market. And yeah, maybe there's a theoretical overpay. And, I'm going to say the thing that I feel like every Cub fan is thinking out loud. I don't care if it's an overpay. I'm not Tom Ricketts. What are they going to charge us more to go to Wrigley? They're already charging us the most in the league. Like beers
we're the
are already
most expensive. We right now are the fourth most expensive major league product that a family of four can go see a baseball game at. The fourth most. So you can't sit there and tell me that the Ricketts family with the TD Waterhouse money and everything that they're getting around the ballpark, that they don't have the cash, and I hate to throw this phrase out there because it seems like it's been overused, but it's true in this case. Kyle Tucker is a generational talent. Okay. Instant impact. The guy is not just a power hitter. He's a contact hitter. He's awesome in the field. I mean, he's 5-tool. And if the Cubs don't do anything and just let him walk, you gave away the other name eludes me right now. And if we let Kyle Tucker walk, we may, mind you, get a conditional first-round pick. So all of this for a possible first-round pick, it would be the laughing stock of the Ricketts regime. They've got to go out and get him.
No, that's yeah. I mean, like it's not like you should. It's a you have to. And I think it's interesting. Like Passan, Rosenthal, all the national writers have just like jumped on this Cubs team with spending, jumped on them. And I do believe in my heart of hearts that I don't think Tom Ricketts is enjoying this. Like he's not sitting there going, well, I made this decision and I'm fine. Like he is a fan. Like I know people want to take a big old dump on this guy all the time because he's just like the punching bag and the thing that we all can rally around being pissed off about. But at the end of the day, he really was a fan that wasn't grandstanding. That wasn't BS. Like he sat in the bleachers, grew up. Yeah, there's a lot of other factors. There's a lot of money that he's trying to sell. Like he's trying to go on. I believe it was Forbes. He did an interview where he's like, well, I wish I could have those words back, but like we've invested money into scouting and these other parts and the minor leagues. And like that costs a lot more money than what you're seeing in these graphics. But it's like, well, it's the age of the internet, and words are toothpaste. Once it's out of the tube, it's too late, and people process it. We're allowed to process it, and we want. And when you're looking at revenue, publicly available revenue at 33% or the payroll at 33% of publicly available revenue, and you're in the tier of the Marlins and the White Sox. Yeah, there's not enough like dividing or grandstanding you can do that's going to convince a fan that you're not cheap. So how do you change that? All of a sudden, we're hearing about Kyle Tucker, and this is the guy. And if it's not him, who and when? Because there isn't another who that I see coming out into the market. These guys don't make the market anymore. So then you're talking that the Cubs have been outpaced on contract size by the Cincinnati Reds. They've been outpaced on contract size by the Milwaukee Brewers. These are just teams, small market teams in your division that have handed out larger contracts than you have historically. Like they have a larger historical contract. And you want to be in the conversation of the White Sox? No, you don't. You don't. You don't want to be in that group. No. So I'm hoping he feels stupid. I'm hoping he feels poor. I'm hoping he feels that he needs to make a change, because this is going to be a hard job if he wants to be, Jed, you're the reason this is all falling apart. If that's the angle we're going to go this year, if things fall apart, then this job has to be attractive to someone else. It can't be a stepping stone role to a better organization. Like this should be a premier job, just like every job in the city of Chicago, because of the media market, should be a premier job in sports. Yeah. And like, we have to like be the one that takes over the media, like while the Bears aren't playing, because the Bears might actually have gotten their stuff together, be the team everyone cares about, because the Sox aren't going to do that this summer. The Bulls have sure as hell like sat in basketball purgatory for a long time. The Blackhawks are still a disaster. Like, be the team that takes over. It won't matter what it costs, because people are going to want to go. Like, just I'll get off my soapbox.
No. You're spot on. I mean, obvious shirts, Joe, if you're watching this, make this shirt. If you want to change the narrative, open your damn wallet. That's all you got to do. Put that as a hashtag. Bricks Behind the Ivy trademarks it. But
there you go.
but yeah, I mean, that's all you got to do if you want to change the narrative. If you're tired, and yes, he is a fan. He's been a fan. He grew up around the team. That's all lollipops, and I get it. But if you're truly a fan and you truly care about this team, then go out, open your damn wallet, and go get them. And I guarantee you the narrative is going to change, both not only for himself, but for the front office and for the product on the field. Make it so that families are going to want to come out to the games. Make it so that, and when they come to the game, it's like, hey, we're going out there to party. No, you're going out there to watch a great product on the field. And that's the only way he's going to do it, is open his wallet.
Correct. And just time value of money, the standard principle. And here's another nerd alert. And hold on, let me get the audio. So
hit it.
Nerd alert.
So at the end of the day, Cubs paid Anthony Rizzo in 2013 a 7-year, $44 million extension.
That's what it was. Yep.
The back end of that was like $14.5 million per year. But let's just say $6.2 million is the average. Like, that's what the math is. $6.2 million. That was in 2013. It was 12 years ago. So just with inflation would be 3% per year is the standard financial way of looking at this. Like, this is what I do for my day job. So like, if you just want to put that into today's dollars, we're talking 12 years of inflation, and that's going to be 1.03% every year. Hold on. So that's what
I can actually hear the hamster.
I know. This the boop 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 boop. 12. That would mean that PCA should be targeting. Yeah, hold on. And the research team is on this right now. PCA should be targeting an AAV of no less than $9 million, $8.9 million, just for an inflationary comp. So that's $75 million we heard this weekend. Hold on. What is 7 times 9? Well, that would be $63 million, which is damn close to what he's looking for, the $75 million, and the Cubs are giving him $75 million. So maybe it's backloaded or has some incentives, and maybe he's guaranteed $9 million. But I'm sorry, the math here aligns too well. And we could say that 3% is not a normal inflation rate for what we've seen the last 3 years. So maybe there's a little back end inflation that's cooked in there. But if the number doesn't start with 7 years, 63 million, if the buy off his arbitration years, then yeah, he should not be negotiating. That's a damn good deal. Anthony Rizzo took a really nice deal, and I understand why he was pissed towards the end of his time with the Cubs. Of he's not the same player. He might have to retire at this point because he doesn't have a job. But yeah, like the Cubs weren't going to pay him this huge backloaded contract, but like he really did sign a really nice deal early in his career. But that was obviously his choice. Like he had the choice. Guess what?
And who was one of the guys that orchestrated that deal in 2013? I believe his name was Jed Hoyer. Yep. So hey, Jed, don't tell me you got amnesia, buddy. Remember what you did years ago? Let's do it again.
And they've been talking about, too, like some of the deals that the Cubs have worked out in the past have been with Excel Sports Management, which, hold on, who is Kyle Tucker's agent? Excel Sports Management. So this isn't even one of those situations where we're dealing with Scott Boras. So I think this is such a home run for Tom Ricketts. It's a home run for the Cubs. It's a home run for literally everyone involved. It's going to come down to whether or not Kyle Tucker feels like that is advantageous for him to dodge an open market to take this number to stay with the Cubs. So it's going to be more years than you want, and it's going to be a higher AAV than you want, but that is the cost to avoid the market, and they are a team worth $5 billion. I'm not going to lose sleep over Tommy finding extra quarters and mom and dad's couch this weekend to give us Kyle Tucker and make him the Cubs for life. So... Well,
I love it. I can see him. Hey, look, I found a dime. Yeah,
exactly. We can get a Bob. We found it. All right. So before this episode drags out too long, let's go into our look at the week. The Cubs play one last team before they head home. They play the San Diego Padres, the Fajas, one more time, as we've already seen that. The Cubs took 2 of 3 from them with a very frustrating loss in that series. Also, if you remember last year, there was an absolutely frustrating loss to the Padres in which we went up big early and lost because the bullpen could not hold. I believe it was an 8-0. It sucked. It was just really bad.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to get some wins there. Tonight we've got a late game. Always love the West Coast games. Get to watch all of them because my kids are asleep. I know I'm a psycho. A lot of people tell me that all the time, that they hate these games. But like when you're a dad and you want to do bedtime with your kids and see the game, like you usually get to choose one or the other. This is a yes and for me. That's great. So
and Cubs, you're watching these West Coast road trip games and you're having a hard time staying awake. What should you drink?
Yaggy Road get some Yaggy Road Roasting Company.
Boom.
Hold on. You know, I told my boy Walker. Walker's one of the guys over there when they originally start showing some more product on the stream. So Walker, if you're watching, this is actually, so for people, it comes in this really nice bag. I'm gonna open it up actually, give it a smell. Because it
a little smell vision here.
Yeah, this is a little bit. This is like smelling salts to me. It smells so good. They make just some amazing coffee. And actually, check out Jameson Tyone's Instagram story. It's probably gone at this point, but last week he brought his own coffee maker on the trip and did a roast pour of Yaggy Road. They sent him a promotional bag of coffee like they did last year, and he drank Yaggy Road while he was out in LA last weekend. So drink the coffee that Jameson Tyone drinks. And Jameson, if you're listening, I'm sure he's a huge brickhead. Help us out. We're trying to get a Cubs roast. Let us know in the comments or send us some information over if you would be interested in actually buying a Cubs themed coffee roast from Yaggy Road. We're working with them to see if that's something people are interested in, given tariffs and all this other nonsense. Coffee's very expensive to import, so they really need to know like you're going to buy it before they roast an entire like shipment of coffee to taste like Cub flavors. And they've got some great ideas, guys. They've got some awesome like Cubs adjacent flavoring that they really want to pair. So hoping that works out. But anywho, yeah, this week ahead we got 3 versus the Padres and we've got 3 versus the Diamondbacks. Saturday for Cub fans is Pete Crow-Armstrong bobblehead day. So if you are a big Cubs
pretty good
bobblehead collector, Saturday's the ticket you want to try to get. Obviously, you have to get to the games extremely early to get your hands on one of those bad boys. But yeah, tonight we've got Jamison Tyone versus Mr. Dylan Cease, off-rumored target for the Cubs, which I think kind of falls off of a target for them with the Padres off to a very good start. One thing that I think will be interesting, and you can talk about the Diamondback series shortly after this, is the Padres as a team are hitting so well. They are an extremely good hitting team. And as a group, I was just looking at this before we hopped on, they are pitching to one of the best or lowest barrel rates in baseball. So they aren't giving up a ton of offense. They have one of the lowest batting averages they've given up this point, 181. That's best in baseball. Lowest team batting average versus their pitching. Wow. They don't walk a lot of guys. They don't give up a lot of slug. They're going to be in their home ballpark. They're leading baseball in expected slug, expecting batting average, which is using statistics and looking at the pitching ballpark adjustments. And it looks at these things and figures out how good their pitchers have been, removing all the noise of all the different parks and all the different things. So their pitching has been great, but the Cubs offense has been super hot. So which one is going to give in this series? This is going to be a big series for the Cubs. They hit pretty well versus the Padres at home at Wrigley. Let's see if the bats can stay hot. Let's see if we can stay Suzuki back and the Cubs can put up some runs in this series. Pat, how do you think the Cubs fare against the Diamondbacks this weekend?
Well, then we head on over to Arizona. Now,
home in Wrigley. Home in Wrigley.
Oh, I'm sorry. Rewind and play. Anywho, hey, quit giving me so much beer, Harry, for God's sake. Anyway, okay. So we're coming back to the friendly confines for a 3-gamer against Diamondbacks. Arizona right now, they've been on a little bit of a tear. Now, granted, they've been playing a little bit of subpar teams. So they just got done pretty much smacking around the Brewers. They're 4th in the NL West right now when it comes to a lot of those things. It's a good team top to bottom. There's not really, as far as a certain whatever that stands out in my mind. But I think it's going to be a great challenge. I'll be curious. My biggest thing with this is I'm going to be curious to see is how the rotation is going to pan out, because obviously we got Tyon tonight. I'm guessing it'll be Shota tomorrow, and then after that, who knows? I don't know how. Maybe Michael Boyd on Wednesday. Who are they going to throw out there against Arizona? Weather's supposed to be a lot better coming up this coming weekend, so that's going to be key. I think it's just going to be a matter of whoever the Cubs are playing, they got to concentrate on their own thing. You can't. You have to. And I've heard this a million times. You have to control the narrative, okay? And then, like I said, Arizona's been on a little bit of a tear lately. But you control the narrative, just like you just talked about with the Cubs in San Diego. The bats have been hot. Let's keep the ball rolling. Let's keep it going. If you find, someone is not doing as well, someone else has got to come back and pick them up, in the back end or whatever. So I'll be curious. That's the one thing I'm looking for is the pitching rotation.
And the Cubs are going to run into a little bit of tough luck with Arizona this time. They did get to dodge Corbin Burns last time, but they're not going to dodge him this time. They've got Merrill Kelly, Brandon Pfaadt, and Eduardo Rodriguez going versus Miami this week. So that leaves Zach Gallen and Corbin Burns for Wrigley Field this weekend. So the gauntlet schedule continues. But I think that's a good place to leave it. Obviously, we'll have another Box Score Blitz. If you like what you hear, make sure you're hitting that review button, hitting that subscribe button, telling your friends, telling your mom, telling your dog, tying a sticker of Bricks Behind the Ivy merch to your dog, letting your dog run all over the neighborhood so they can share the podcast. Do whatever you need to do to get more Brickheads involved. Thank you so much for all of your time, guys, today. Let's get another above 500 week and survive this month of April that is quickly coming to a close. And let's go Cubs.
Go Cubbies. So long, everybody.